Yep, we are good.
All right, welcome, everybody. I'm going to call to order the annual town meeting. Oop. We got one speaker on. Did it go? No, it was good feedback. All right, called to order the annual town meeting for the town of Lisbon at the Richard Young Memorial Fire Station on Tuesday, April 20th, 2021 at 7:02 PM. Yeah, roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman,
Here.
Supervisor Beal. Here. Supervisor Plotecker. Here. Supervisor Brahm.
Here.
Supervisor Moonen. Administrator Nicholas. Here. We've got Treasurer Joan Seifert. We have DPW Director Joe DeStefano. Building Inspector Brian Olhafen. We have Auditor Wendy Unger. We have Captain Lisa Panis. We have from Parks, we have Mike Lund. We have Interim Chief Michelle Drager. I believe that's it. Or Scott. Yep. And Scott.
All right, thank you. We will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We also observe a moment of silence after the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Item 3 is introduction of elected officials. On the end, we have Supervisor Mark Moonen. We have Supervisor Doug Brahm, Supervisor Rebecca Plotecker, and this is Supervisor Linda Beal, and my name is Chairman Osterman. All right. Item 4 is presentation of Citizens Award. Supervisor Brahm.
Okay, so tonight we have the Waukesha County Fire Chiefs are present. We have Chief Matt Fenning, Lake Country Fire Chief, who is the current president of the Chiefs Association, and Assistant Chief D'Amico from Town of Brookfield, who is the chair of the awards committee for the Chiefs Association. And tonight we have a special little event here where we're going to give a Citizens Award to a person, a young girl from Town of Lisbon, Andrea. So with the Blasmore family, please come on up with Andrea, and if the fire chiefs could come up.
All right, good evening. My name is Matt Fennig. Like Chief Brahm said, I'm the chief of Lake Country Fire Rescue and also the president of the Waukesha County Fire Chiefs. Tonight, I have the distinguished honor of presenting an award to Andrea for saving the life of her brother. And let me just start by telling you that I work every day with men and women in the fire service, and we put our lives on the line every single day to help people in our communities. But what Andrea did on June 3rd of 2020 is heroic, and she saved the life of her brother, and they will forever have a bond with that. So let me read you Chief Brahm's nomination. On June 3rd, 2020, a little after 4 p.m., 13-year-old Andrea was with her family and some neighborhood children playing and swimming in their backyard. The day was going well, and everyone was enjoying their time. Adults were present, things were being supervised and safe. We all know the time it takes for accidents to happen fast and unexpected. What happened next was much unexpected for Andrea. Her little brother, Cole, 4, had slipped past the people and fell into the pool. The downtime of the child is unknown, but it couldn't have been long. Andrea saw Cole at the bottom of the pool and immediately acted. She dove to the bottom, pulled Cole up out of the water. He was not breathing. She administered CPR, which she learned from her babysitting class. and she immediately started doing compressions and rescue breathing. They called 911. The child was taken away to the front of the house while the rescuers were on the way. Andrea stayed with Cole until he began to breathe. 6 minutes later, after receiving the alarm, the Lisbon Fire Department arrived on scene. The ambulance crew was met by Cole being carried by his mother. Cole was aggressively crying and very much alive. The child and mother were transported to Children's Hospital. Cole was released after assessment and observation overnight. He did have some small water in his lungs, but has been completely recovered with no ill effects. Cole is home and even wants to go swimming. He misses being treated so well in the hospital and wants to go back as well here. Andrea, you acted fast and deliberately. You saved the life of your brother. We admire the quick actions of your 13-year-old self, and we are very proud of you. So with that, it's my distinguished honor to present you with the 2020 Citizen of the Year Award from the Waukesha County Fire Chiefs Association. Mary, you want one? So this is also a plaque that can go on your wall, and I assure you that when you put this on your college application somewhere, it'll take it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Andrea. It's truly a good story. I remember when I heard that call come over the radio. And a lot of times those don't end well, but very heroic what you did. All right. Item 5 is approval of the minutes from the 2020 annual meeting. So this is the town annual meeting. So anyone who is a resident of the town of Lisbon votes at this, has an opportunity to vote at this meeting. So we had at the door a packet, and inside there is the draft minutes of the May 13th, 2020 annual meeting. And what we would be looking for now is a motion and then a second, and then we would vote on the minutes. So is there a motion on the 2020 annual meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion is moved by Mark Moonen. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Linda Beal. All right, at this point, would there be any discussion on the minutes? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. All right, item 6 is the town board and department reports. Kathy. You're good.
Over your head's in the way. Good evening. We're going to start with the 179th annual meeting of the electors. Our building inspection annual statistics. In 2020, Lisbon experienced a growth in permits of 32% and new home starts of 39%. Total permits in 2020 were 985, and our new home starts were 52. Here. We have 4 new subdivisions being developed in 2021. We expect an increase of growth. Bark River Preserve, Pheasant View Meadows, Twin Pine Farms Phase 3, and Hillside Ridge Phase 2. In addition, we're seeing new home permits being pulled for Haas Farms development in 2021. Lisbon will also be highlighted as part of the 2021 Parade of Homes in Hillside Ridge subdivision. Our fire department, we had 1,358 total calls for service. Some of the call stats include 45 fire calls for a loss of $553,502. 457 pre-hospital emergency EMS calls, 310 interfacility transfers, 66 motor vehicle accidents, 27 responses to hazardous conditions, 45 false alarms, 86 service calls, and 160 well-being or good intent calls. Can't see that much. See if I can close this off. So in parks, it was a rough year for sports in parks. Most of them were canceled in 2020, including our social events. Our Easter extravaganza and community festival were both canceled due to the pandemic. Then Winterfest was canceled due to weather. So we didn't have any luck in 2020 with our festivals. Our open air shelters were reserved 20 times. In 2019, we had 50 reservations, so it has gone down, but we are expecting to see an increase in 2021 as we already have 19 reservations for the year. In 2020, they continued to remove affected ash trees, and they'll continue to do that in 2021. Staff turnover has brought Mike Lund from the Public Works to the Parks Division. Mike is working to achieve his ISA certification and arborist certificate. In 2021, the Parks Department, along with the Parks Committee, added a 9/11 event commemorating the 20 years. Sheriff's Department. A little more stats. In 2020, for calls for service, there were 3,179. That's down from 2019 due to the pandemic. For traffic enforcement, there were 602 traffic stops, 154 citations, 251 verbal warnings, and 125 written warnings. For community enforcement, they assisted our fire and EMS 454 times, building checks 1,734 times, citizen service calls 215, ordinance citations at 30, and tavern citations 44. We had calls for service of 911 hang-up calls, 309. Alarms, 106. Animal cases, 119. Burglary, 10. Domestics, 41. Juvenile problems, 34. Suicide or suicide attempts, 16. And suspicious matter, 221. It's a lot of statistics, I know. Yep. Highway and DPW. In 2020, the accomplishments were they did pave Plainview and Maple Avenue in 2020. And before they did that, they replaced all the culverts in both roads prior to paving. There was another safe and successful plow season with 22 events, and that is for the year 2020. Approximately 42 inches of snow they pushed, used 988 tons of salt. They conducted a successful appliance, electronic, and tire event in September, and they had good attendance. They collected 205 appliances, approximately 8,000 pounds of electronics, and 430 tires. They also purchased and put into service a new Case wheel loader and John Deere skid loader. So their projects for 2021, they want to complete the compost site move, and their goal is to get that open before the end of the 2021 season. And then they're going to put a plan together to slightly restructure the plow routes with the new developments that we were speaking about earlier in the town. All right, for town hall. 2020 accomplishments, we did the AV upgrade to town hall and the new AV upgrade in here. Laptops for all board members and plan commission members. We upgraded the 5-year park plan. The office experienced a large staff turnover in 2020, and 4 elections in 2020 were successfully completed. Now I have on this, and it's very hard to read, the statistics for all 4 elections, but I did want to make note that our registered voters increased in 2020 from 7,113 to 8,345. We see that normally due to it being a presidential election. For the treasurer's annual, we paid off the 2010 promissory bank note in 2020, and in 2021, we paid off the promissory note 2014A, and in August, we'll pay off the promissory bank note 2011. Did want to make note that the interest rates the interests that we have collected from 19 to 20 went down about half. We're seeing the market isn't allowing for the, interest rate we had in the past. The treasurer just recently looked to see, we had one bank note, the town bank CD was coming due in April. The treasurer did look at all possible CDs and found that the highest interest rate we could get would be at a money market, and we're going to hold that at the money market until the CD rates come back up. She negotiated a 0.3% rate on at Waukesha State Bank money market, and she got that to stick for 1 year. So if you look at the historical bank interest rates, interest earned, last in 19 was 97,483.09, and in 2020 was 48,882 and 82 cents. So you can see the fluctuation. So for 2021 projects, we're going to continue working on incorporation, employee handbook and manual benefits manual. Our website redesign should be completed May, June of this year, and we implemented Badger books. If you all participated in the April election, you are used to seeing a paper poll book. The Badger books speed up the process for us. We are redesigning the newsletter. We are made it online in 2021, and we are going to be putting out a newsletter every quarter. We're also scanning as many documents as we can into Laserfiche to allow us easier access for the residents. That's my report.
Does anyone have any questions on the department reports? Anything on Zoom?
Am I still on Zoom? No hands raised on Zoom.
All right, thank you. All right, that will lead us to item 7, which is presentation and approval of the 2020 annual audit report. We have Wendy. Might have to throw it at something.
I know.
There's a
On
button.
now?
Oh, there
Yep.
you go.
I don't think I
Having
need
the button on.
We'll use it anyways. Well, thank you for having me here this evening. Again, I'm Wendy Younger, partner responsible for the audit of the town of Lisbon. You should have been provided prior to this evening a couple-page handout, which is what I will use to go through the audited financial statements and the communication that was issued as part of the audit process, which I believe you received electronically yesterday. So the objective of the audit for the town of Lisbon was to render an opinion on the financial statements of the town. We have issued a clean, unmodified opinion, highest level of assurance that you can receive from us as your auditors. That unmodified opinion means that the financial information that is contained within your audited statements is believed to be materially accurate. that generally accepted accounting principles have been adhered to, that all the disclosures that are required to be included under the standards that governments follow have been included within your footnotes, and that accounting principles have been applied consistently from year to year. In a year where there's a new governmental accounting standard, you would have a little bit differing opinion, some additional verbiage, but there was no new GASBs or governmental accounting standards effective for the town for 2020. So a year of reprieve in that area. The next page of the handout, this is where I've highlighted some financial information. Going to go through this at a very high level, but please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. The first column, there's the general fund. This is the day-to-day operating fund of the town. $6.4 million of actual revenue. That compares to a $5.5 million budget. So you were over revenue. You were over budget in your revenue category by roughly $910,000. The largest portion of that is your ambulance revenue. You budget differently in your in your budget booklet. So ambulance and transports came in at $667,000 over budget on the revenue side. In a moment, we'll talk how you were over in expenditures also, but again, on the revenue side, $667,000. You had also got some routes to recovery money, some CARES money, stimulus funds of $171,000. That was not anticipated at the time of budget. You also sold the wheel loader that was replaced during the year. That was $70,000 of revenue that was received. And then a small litigation settlement for $25,500, all items that were not anticipated at the time of budget. Expenditures, $6.3 million of actual compared to a $5.5 million budget. So you were over budget in your expense category by $807,000. Again, the largest piece of that is the ambulance write-offs. You collect the revenue and then you write off a portion based on the individuals that you transport. Again, $480,000 over budget. You had about $100,000 of overage within the planner category because they filled in for the shortfalls in the other staff in the office during the year. Routes to recovery, again, you had expenses associated with that money, $116,000 that weren't budgeted for. Building inspection was up $60,000 over the previous year, but DPW was under budget by $149,000, mainly within the gas and salt areas, and then the fire department salaries were also under budget by $65,000. So overall, when you put together your 2020 budget, you budgeted to break even. You budgeted to add nothing to fund balance. However, for 2020, you added almost $104,000 to fund balance and had almost 4.2 million of fund balance at the end of the year. On the bottom portion of that handout, I break out the pieces of that. 58,000 is non-spendable. You have inventory that is sitting on your balance sheet, hasn't been expensed yet, but the cash is gone. So you have no cash on hand for that. So that is non-spendable. You also have a portion that's assigned, $194,000. Those are monies that have been set aside for a particular purpose. The largest portion of that is the OPEB, the other post-employment benefits of the town, that is continuing to decrease on an annual basis. But in 2020, a portion of the fund balance was assigned, roughly $170,000 for the remaining liability. That leaves 3.9 million of unassigned fund balance. That's money that the board and management has available for working capital contingency type items. Right now, that money is really kind of being used to help fund the deficit that's currently within the TID, which we'll talk about in a moment, but that deficit will go away in 2021 with the borrowing that the town has done. The next column on the summary financial information is a debt service fund. You levy a tax, you pay the principal and interest on town debt, 1.8 million of revenue, 1.8 million of principal and interest, a small increase in fund balance of $16 and had 22,000 of fund balance in the debt service fund as of the end of the year. Those are monies you have available to offset against any future debt service cost of the town. Capital project fund, $1 million of revenue. A good portion of that is the monies that the board budgets annually for your sinking funds for both your fire and your highway department. So those monies come in as revenue into that fund. You also had a borrowing during the year of $250,000. So those are the largest portion of revenue. You spent 1.6 million out of your capital project fund, most of that on highway equipment and roads, smaller portions on park equipment and fire equipment. So the capital project used 620,000 of fund balance and had slightly over $1 million of fund balance as of the end of the year. Those monies are committed. They're committed for the purpose of that fund until those monies have been used to the extent that they have been anticipated. The next column is the capital project TIF, the TID 1 fund. Has no revenue currently, won't have revenue till it generates increment. $1.4 million of expenditures. Those are engineering and site development costs that were paid during 2020. That fund has a deficit fund balance of 1.9 million. And again, just recently, actually borrowed to replenish that fund and pay for some additional costs. So that money will go back into the fund balance. The last column there is the non-major funds. These are all the remaining funds of the town. This is your park fund, your building fund, your compost fund. Those can be found in a detailed schedule at the very back of your audited statements if you'd like to look at that at your leisure. But $139,000 of revenue. Pieces of that, there's park and building impact fees that are included in there. And then the compost fees that you receive from Merton and Lannon. You spent $42,000. Most of that's within the compost area. So you added $97,000 fund balance and had $506,000 of fund balance as of the end of the year. Of that fund balance, roughly $31,000 is the compost fund, and the remaining funds make up the $474,000. The largest pieces being your building impact fees at roughly $244,000. And then there's some money that has been set aside for a sewer study at $104,000. The next page highlights the annual activity for the stormwater fund. This is a different fund type at the town, so this is shown separately. Good news, activity very, very consistent with 2019. Very little fluctuation within your revenue or your operating expenses. The only thing I will note is you'll see on this page, you see a transfer out of $80,000. This is different than what you've seen in the past, but the stormwater shared in the cost of the wheel loader. So that money went over to the capital project fund to pay for the stormwater's portion of that. So as of the end of the year, essentially, again, almost a break even within the stormwater, had a $7,000 decrease in net position, had net position of $1 million as of year end. That $1 million is very different than fund balance because this fund includes all the capital assets less any related debt. So of that $1 million, $284,000 is cash, all available for operations. There's no restrictions on that money. The last page of the handout, switching gears a little bit, those 4 bullet points just highlight the activity that's included in the other audited or the other document that we issue as part of the audit process, really the document where we communicate comments and recommendations, where we include our required communications. Just a couple of things to note in there. That document is relatively consistent to what you've seen in the past. It does have 2 material weaknesses. There is one regarding segregation of duties, and the only segregation of duties that was noted was the same individual may collect taxes that also does the bank reconciliation for taxes. It's just very difficult to have complete segregation within that area, but that is a risk that exists. And then we, as the auditors, prepare your audited financial statements and had some material journal entries. Neither of these, the segregation of duties or the financial prep, is uncommon or unusual. Most of our clients, we do that service for them, and they also have material weaknesses. So again, we become part of your internal control structure when we do that. And again, that's referred to as a material weakness. Other comments and recommendations, just want to highlight, there will be a new governmental accounting standard effective for the town in 2022. I have already talked with Kathy about the possible implications of that, and it seems like they will be very minimal. So we'll work with them. It's a new standard that affects how you account for leases. So any vehicles, equipment, property that you may lease, but again, we'll work with management. And then lastly, the required portion of that report is what we have to communicate to you as the auditors. I'm very happy to say nothing noted in that section that is different than what we've included in the past. Nothing I need to draw your attention to. It does summarize the material entries that we did. But again, other than that, which is very typical and normal, nothing that I need to draw to your attention. On that last page, I have included my direct line and my email address. Happy to talk through this in more detail with any of you, but I'd also be happy to answer any questions you may have at this point.
All right, any questions from anyone on the audit report? Anything on Zoom?
Hi, Lisa Otis here, W220N9359 Town Line Road. Just have a question because I'm zooming in. I don't have the access to the paper copies and I don't see anything posted on the website other than the notice and the agenda. Is there somewhere I can find that or get a copy of that?
Lisa, I can email that to you.
Okay, that would be great.
We will place the audit, Lisa, on the website as well. So we'll
You
send
will.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, and I raised my hand late after the first section that talked about projects for 2021. I wonder also if there will be more information on the ongoing efforts for incorporation because there's really been nothing available up to this point.
So in our Gazette that went out the first quarter, there was an update on where we were at. If you didn't get an electronic copy of that sent to your email, you can sign up on the website to do that for future quarters. Every newsletter will have something more on the incorporation itself. But you can find the Gazette on the website, and the incorporation page does have an update on it. So
It does, okay,
yeah.
right, because it didn't like a month ago or so. Great, good to see that there are updates there.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Does anyone else have any questions? All right, thank you, Wendy. All right, that brings us to item 8, which is discussion and necessary action on any of the other powers of a town meeting as defined in section 60.10 of the Wisconsin statutes. Is there anything any qualified elector would like to discuss? Last call for anything anyone would like to discuss.
Lisa, is your still hand up from the previous comment, or do you have a new comment?
I have a new comment. Just a question, I'm not exactly sure what this section of the discussion surrounds. Maybe I could have a little explanation or description.
So it's kind of hard. There's a lot of things under 60.10 of the Wisconsin statute that anybody could discuss at this point. I mean, it goes anywhere from, there's a lot of things in there that are really old that probably don't apply anymore, such as combining the offices of the town clerk and town treasurer. If we were going to ask to purchase any land and such, changing the salaries of town officials. If you Google Wisconsin statute 60.10, it goes through everything and explains it. It's
Okay.
probably 4 pages.
Do you think?
Pages.
Sure. Is there a high level, anything in it that you see changing that we should be aware of? Anything aside from perhaps like a change that we already know about as far as personnel and committee members?
There's always, as the year goes on, there's always committee members that are changing. Right now, we have a vacancy on our plan commission. We will be accepting applications for that. Other committees, as people resign, we appoint. The board has all its members right now. Trying to think what else. If there's anything open right now, which I don't think there is.
We're looking for a part-time help in parks. DPW, did you have anything?
Other than
That's
that,
it.
I can't think of anything. I mean, other than we're always going for incorporation. That's obviously something that's big for us. But nothing else I can think of offhand.
Okay, so nothing to do, any changes in the power of our local government as far as rezoning, thing, with the developments that are happening, the changes, there are, of course, the changes to the long-range plan, which I believe are supposed to be more significantly discussed in 2021, once the census numbers are out. Any changes as it might relate to those topics?
Nothing that we haven't
As far
already,
as- um,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as far as the powers of the board.
So the village board, or excuse me, the future village board, the town board, was granted village powers many years ago. And we operate under that. Other than that, I don't think there shouldn't be any changes, any of that. We would have to ask that from the electorate, which I don't think there's anything more we could even ask for at this point, to be honest.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. Does anyone else have any questions? All right, I would move on to item 9 then, which is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Your name, sir? Your address?
272 North 6692 Ardeven Park, 5308.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn has been made. Is there a second? Thank you, Sherry. Motion made and seconded. No discussion on an adjournment. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are unanimously adjourned at 7:38. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.